But let's get back to a little bit of the action that we came across here with the NFL. This is Sims Complete on the Sims Complete podcast, brought to you by Believe Sports Network and FanDuel. Thank you so much, FanDuel, for your support. And of course, thank you, Lindsay Kugler, for our producer of the show, always taking care of us and making us look good. But yeah, the Jets had an entertaining day today with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And let's start right there. The best part is Luke Goedeke, who plays offensive line for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, called out by the young buck, David Bailey, in one-on-ones early on in practice. And I love it. Luke wins the one-on-one. Bailey gives him a shove. Luke ain't going to take any of that crap from the young guy, right? So, of course, it gets a little chippy and all that. And then Bari, of course, takes a little bit of a cheap shot at Luke and all that. And then, of course, the brawl starts, right? Then it goes nuts. And then that just sets the tone for the entire practice. That's where the joint practices, I'm not really even sure if they're like super useful at times just because of the amount of fights and all that kind of stuff and what's actually accomplished, especially when the two teams end up playing each other in a preseason game. But man, is it awesome to start the year off with like that chippiness, right? That ability to hit someone else, in another color uniform. And no doubt it was, I think, something like, Luke just like, hey, standing on what's important to him. For him, he was basically just keeping it really real. Hey, the guy called me out. I took care of it in one-on-one. He gave me an extra shove, didn't respect that, and I responded. And I think that's really amazing, right? When you kind of get to that high-level competition and understanding that, that's two grown men who are really great at their craft, right? Going back and forth at it. So that's one of those things where, like, people will interpret it however they want to interpret it. But I just think it's like good old-fashioned fun and excitement. And I think that's awesome, too. What I love, though, about this, and this is now like the bigger picture of like the human element of this. All these fights are taking place, and young corner Stiggers, number 24 for the New York Jets, passes out on the football field today, right? According to reports, he comes to the sideline and just was uncomfortable. And then, as Coach Aaron Glenn says, he just passed out on the field. So we go from that high-level competition between two great football players finding their way in all that. Now, young defensive back Stiggers competing, getting after it, comes to the sideline, passes out. Thank God for the Jets training staff to take care of him, getting him an IV on the field as soon as it happened. He was taken off the field by stretcher into an ambulance, and he's being evaluated currently at the hospital. It does seem like everything is okay. Might have just got a little overheated. We are at that time, too, in the period of just training camp where guys start to, dehydration and just the health of your body starts to play a part in just your health as a football player. So really hope that he is feeling okay. Really hope that Qwan'tez's family, of course, is on their way to support that young man and feeling good and feeling confident. So early indication, although collapsing at practice and being a scary moment, Jets training staff, awesome job as always, right? Taking care of Qwan'tez, making sure, right, that his family can continue to have this young man and be present, because we know how scary those things are in training camp, right? So shout out to the training camp, all the people out there, right, and the medical staff taking care of these football players. And Qwan'tez, get healthy soon, my man. Scary moment for you, I'm sure. A confusing moment as a football player in that sense, too. I had that once when I was a kid where I essentially passed out, right? And I was playing summer baseball and really just kind of like lost my way because I wasn't hydrated and all that. So I know how scary that can be. And Qwan'tez, we're rooting for you, man. We hope you have a speedy recovery and you get back out on that football field and do what you love and what you were meant to do for the New York Jets this upcoming season. But most importantly, young man, the Jets training staff took care of you. You're feeling better, and that's most important. You're with your family, you're with your loved ones, your support, and that's the big takeaway and the reminder, again, of this human element of this highly competitive stuff. Going back to that Jets training camp, and this was amazing too, like a practice with competition, Jets, Bucks competing, unbelievable. Qwan'tez Stiggers passes out, the training staff takes care of him. Luke Goedeke, and of course, David Bailey, the young man, getting after it, right? Causing a little bit of a fight. Shortly after there, another fight, starts. And that's what's pretty amazing, about this is that, we're all kind of chasing that same goal, that same vision, right? Win a Super Bowl, be a successful football player and all that. And yet here these young men are battling on the field, getting in some fights, getting scrappy and all that. Then the situation with Qwan'tez and even Harrison Phillips too, just mentioning that, just like, it was a really scary moment and it really puts everything in perspective. And he's just like, I'm happy. He goes, I'm really happy to hear most of the news has been positive, but the knee-jerk reaction, if you're sitting there thinking, is what the F? And totally get it. And that's where, it's just that fine line, man, between everything that's going on, with these young men, with the coaches, with their families at home, just the family affair of being a high-level football player and what that means. And it's just an unbelievable moment, I think, for the Jets training staff too, to just showcase their skill set too, and why another reminder of why they're so important in those current situations. Now, going back to this practice, it's really unbelievable that it sounds like, from what everyone was saying, that Armand Membou is absolutely playing phenomenal at tackle with the Jets this year so far early on in the preseason. He got a little scuffle as well with Ashawn Robinson. So that was another one where, it turns out, hey, helmets start flying and all of that, and they get into it. Darrell Jackson Jr., defensive tackle, right, for the Jets, he got a little scuffle as well. So, here we are early on in training camp. Todd Bowles, Aaron Glenn, two guys that really have great respect and have an unbelievable relationship, right? But it's amazing how that relationship doesn't exactly trickle down to their football players in that sense, and I think that's really a great thing, a great reminder too. And this is something that I'm reading off of Rich Cimini's report here on ESPN. He wrote an article just kind of capturing the day, and he does a very good job of encapsulating just the wildness it was at Jets training camp. And especially too with Geno had a few struggles, no doubt. And it seems like in today's practice, at the same time, it seemed like there was some really good moments too. And then, of course, penalties and all that stuff, along with the fights and everything, takes place all simultaneously, right, for him. But, I think right now, the Jets are in a good position. I think it's another thing too, like, been practicing well, the New York Jets and their offense, right, against themselves. Now they go against a new opponent. That raises new questions, new things, new wrinkles to go through. And, I think that's what's awesome about it. There were plenty of, as Rich Cimini says, self-inflicted mistakes. But he said Geno Smith started out really hot, leading a 65-yard touchdown drive, completing the first of his 5 passes. But he said then after that, the offense did start to kind of, fall apart a little bit with some penalties, some sacks. And then, of course, too, just, after that, just losing the momentum, right? And then also, Rich Cimini says that, Coach Glenn, it was quoted, it's the part that we get tired. And once you get fatigued mentally, things start to get jumbled. So we have to do a better job of that. So, for what started hot for Geno, right? He finished the day 12 of 20 for 157. Leading to 1 touchdown drive on 9 series. And hey, that's part of it. That is part of it. Like, the struggles against another team and all that kind of stuff is huge. And I really think, just for the team, let's not get caught here. And we've discussed this before. I just read the stats from training camp. Right. So that's the world that we live in, that we're keeping stats of the guys constantly, no matter what, good, bad, or indifferent, for the training camp. And this is where it's a fine line of, like, these guys got to learn, they got to experiment, they got to improve, and you got to take calculated risks to see what you're capable of doing, what your teammates are capable of, what the offense is capable of doing, and still have tremendous faith in the New York Jets and what they're able to do this year, and with their new quarterback, Geno Smith, and what he brings to the table. Also, another great note, though, too, Jets fans out there, an offensive highlight that Rich Cimini discussed here in his article and observations. Cade Klubnik, 66-yard pass to Isaiah Williams. That's really exciting too. That was in a hurry up moment, he said, during practice. Isaiah Williams Of course, just making a little bit more of a presence for himself out there, which is awesome. Moments later, the former Clemson star threw an 11-yard touchdown pass to tight end Jelani Woods. So Klubnik, young man, finished with a really good day, 10 of 14 for 154, 2 TDs and an interception. But, that's what I think is just like an awesome opportunity, right, for Cade Klubnik to get that experience against the Tampa Bay Bucs defense, to see them in practice in that way, to get a few 2-minute drills and to play hurry up mode and all that, which is always a great time too for young football players to get reps where you can kind of put thinking aside. We get back to just that response, reactionary type of style. And typically in 2-minute drills, you do see a lot of young football players actually play a little bit more freely. And why us as fans are like, why don't they just do 2-minute all the time? Man, it's so much easier that way. But good for Cade Klubnik having a great practice today from what it sounds like from Richard Meaney's report. Bailey Zappe doing a great job of competing for that number 2 spot. It just seems like right now Bailey, the experience, the veteran aspect of his career, has a little bit more command, a little bit more comfortable displaying and showing command than Cade Klubnik. And I think right now, they'll say the battle's far from over. I think Bailey Zappe is going to end up being the backup quarterback, but I think it's only in service of Cade Klubnik becoming a better football player in the near future, not in years from now, in the near future. So I think this is just a great opportunity for him. Just continue to learn, right? Watch, learn from Geno Smith, from Bailey Zappe, accumulate those mental reps as much as possible, build up that confidence. No doubt today will help tremendously with Cade's confidence moving forward and really putting his best foot forward as the season continues for him. The other thing too that I really think, and Rich and Meady doing a great job too of just covering all of the Jets training camp today, and really the Jets, because they had that practice with the Tampa Bay Bucs, or the discussion, the topic of discussion here for us today. But what I love though too, is that for this depth chart, right, for the Jets depth chart, a lot of young football players that we discussed in the past that really need to step up, right, and really need to make, their presence felt. And, to hear a guy like Isaiah Williams, who I had a chance to meet as well in his third year out of Illinois, a more of a slot receiver build kind of guy. But like when I was with him at the workouts with Geno, with Bailey, with Cade, caught everything, was a pro. And he's someone that had a limited role in years past, and having a rep like today against the Tampa Bay Bucs with that big pass down the sideline, right, from Cade Klubnik. Those are the type of plays that potentially can catapult a young football player into now becoming one of those dudes for you on offense. And I think that's the biggest thing, because, Adonai Mitchell, still a young football player that needs to find his own personal identity on the field. Of course, kind of rewriting the narrative from Indianapolis. He has a ton of potential, no doubt. Omar Cooper, Kenyon Sadiq, two guys that had unbelievable college careers, but like need to be productive like ASAP for this football team to be a good football team. That's where guys like Isaiah Williams, though, can really shine, because they're the guys that maybe people aren't quite thinking about at the top of the list of like, man, they're going to be the one. But Isaiah Williams, I think, is a guy that really is kind of prepped and primed to make a big leap now going into his third year. And that goes along too, right, for another guy, right, that was drafted here recently, Arian Smith, right? 4th round draft pick, young football player. He's got a lot of skill, 6 foot, 170, can absolutely fly. And he's a guy that, listen, he did some good things with Georgia. So Isaiah Williams, Arian Smith, 2 football players that are very, very talented, that I do believe can really make an awesome impact for this football team moving forward. And it's just a great sign to hear, Isaiah Williams having a great practice after getting to know him and seeing him work, and his mentality and his growth at the position and his growth as a human and as a man, right? This is a guy that really is set up to have a very successful year. Like we mentioned, Membou being one of the better offensive linemen, right, for the New York Jets right now, and his ability. Geno Smith, I think, really good step forward. Hey, of course, there were some mistakes made by the QBs today for the New York Jets, and there were some turnovers, all that. I don't really care all that much about it. It's really about just the fact that, like, they're making big plays. They have a little bit more structure than they've had in the past from the quarterback position. And we should expect to see this offense playing at a different level with that Geno Smith, Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson trio leading the pack for this football team. And then hopefully from there, guys like Isaiah Williams and Arian Smith, and of course the first rounders that they got, the young guys, making an impact sooner than later for this football team, and Frank Reich for that offense, right? And of course, too, I just love the fact of like Aaron Glenn's whole style this year. It just seems like he was kind of playing the part as head coach a year ago, and this year already he's kind of like, nope, this is who I am. I don't really give a damn. Let's go. And I absolutely love that, right, for the New York Jets. So that's a little of the update that we got here for Sims Complete. We're still early on in training camp, and really focus solely on the New York Jets, the New York Giants. So if you want to hear other teams, just deal with it, okay? I want you to listen to our local brands for now. But want to remind everybody, too, we are brought to you by FanDuel. Thank you so much, FanDuel, for your support of the Sims Complete podcast. And we're also sponsored by ZipRecruiter. A few weeks ago, actually, I was trying to expand my business, Sims Complete, and I needed just like people around who knew what I was trying to do, who were trying to help me build out this football program to being as special as possible and making it this awesome, unique experience that all football players want to be a part of, making our football family even bigger. This is Sims Complete on the Believe Sports Network, brought to you by FanDuel. That's the Jets report that we had today. Thank you so much, Rich Samini, for your great reporting there at Jets training camp. I look forward to seeing you there soon when I'm there with SiriusXM, breaking down all the action with me and Baba Papa. Actually, no, I think I'm with Bill Lekkas that day. Memory serves me correct, which will be also an interesting day too, because Bill's a pretty big Jets fan too. So I'm sure he'll be like happy and miserable at the same time. You know how those Jets people are. So this is Sims Complete. I'm your host, Matt Sims. Pretty soon we'll get Big Phil back in here. All right. But for right now, you just got to deal with me. All right. But this is Sims Complete. We'll see you guys next week for another breakdown of Jets and Giants training camp. See you soon.